Enter the Eckrich $1 Million Challenge. One lucky winner will have the chance to throw for $1 million at the 2017 College Football Playoff National Championship Game. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Sweepstakes ends December 11th, 2016. Contest rules online.
This is Larry Culpepper, and if you love college football as much as I do, enough to invent the playoff, you're welcome. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to the Championship Drive podcast in the Listen tab of your ESPN app. App is short for app.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
They give it to Murray off the left side. This time he dives in. Marcus Allen style. Touchdown! Raiders!
I don't understand it. I mean, this is what we get paid to do. I don't know what the lack of juice was. I mean, we have to look deep in the mirror there because that's just not acceptable.
Cam came out and said he fears for his life.
I'm just happy we won the football game.
People get hit in the knees, get hit in the head, and we not even get penalized for it.
It's always fun to win.
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
Good morning. We are back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And so, after the 7th largest gathering in human history celebrated a World Series, and before we all gather in our polling places tomorrow to celebrate the democracy in which we are privileged to live, there is football. And for the most part this weekend, that football was pretty good. How are you, big fella?
I'm doing well. No complaints. I love how we're making everything. You look at commercials of every sporting event. It's all about the election coming up tomorrow, and many people looking forward to it. Many people can't wait till it's over with.
Yes. Wednesday is a day I've had circled on my calendar for quite some time.
As I said last week, Theo Epstein, write him in.
Write him in.
He fixed the Red Sox and the Cubs. He could go a long way. Now, I thought, it was a great weekend of sports yet again. Good weekend of football to watch, except watching my alma mater go down and your alma mater go down. The one thing I'll say is I think I'm glad our alma maters aren't playing one another this year. Your Northwestern team is, Wisconsin's a better team, but your team plays them tough. They certainly were more athletic than, let's say, you were at the game that we'll get into.
Yes,
we have video.
I've heard quite a bit about it.
Oh, yeah.
The Wisconsin is very good. Obviously, that's not where we're going to start today.
No, it's not.
But I did want to mention, I opened just with those words, for those who think that I'm engaging in some sort of hyperbole. I was in Chicago Friday and Saturday, or in Evanston, which is neighboring to Chicago.
Did it?
I didn't go to the parade.
Right.
No, which it started at Wrigley Field and it went down to Grant Park. I was in Evanston, so I was nowhere near it. But obviously, it was on every television, everywhere you looked in any direction. It was the 7th largest gathering of people in human history. Now, obviously, going back hundreds of years, the population has exploded, so comparatively speaking, but if you really think about it, it was the largest gathering of people in American history. All the other previous 6, I looked it up because I was just fascinated to see what they were. They were like funerals, and like one of them was the funeral of the Ayatollah Khomeini, and I mean, things like that. They weren't celebrations of baseball teams winning championships. None of them took place in the United States. We'll get it for you here in a second.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
One of them was a Rod Stewart concert in Brazil.
I was going to say, was any other a sporting event?
Here it is. No, one of them is a pilgrimage in India in 2013. Okay. The next is a festival in Iraq. The next was a funeral in India, then a funeral in Iran, then a papal gathering in the Philippines, then World Youth Day, and then the Cubs celebration rally in Chicago.
Wow.
These were the largest gatherings of human beings in the history of our civilization.
That's amazing.
To celebrate a baseball team winning a championship. But I mean, it was fun, and obviously, I'm glad everyone had such a good time, and obviously we waited a long time for this.
Yeah.
But if you just look at what it's in the, again, pilgrimage, festival, funeral, papal gathering, World Youth Day, Cubs parade.
So there's no doubt, even though they were 7th in total amount, they were highest in percentage of drunk people.
Most likely.
No doubt about that.
It was number 1 in the U.S. If you look at what all these in front of you have
Philippines,
in common.
Iran, India,
none of them took place
Iraq,
in the United
India.
States.
Yeah.
This was the biggest gathering of people in the history of our country.
We're not shocked, though, by that, are we?
I'm a little shocked by that.
But
yes, I mean, if you had asked me what was the largest gathering in the history of the United States, I don't know that I could have given you a guess. And I don't know what it was prior to this. But I would not have guessed, the Cubs will wind up gathering more people in one place than anything that has ever happened in the 250-year history of the United States of America.
Trying to think of what could have happened that could have gathered more.
I would have thought, I don't even know, funerals, marches, celebrate. I don't know.
Yeah.
Look, I guess this is as good a thing as you could
108
have.
years. I mean, it's a long time.
It is. It was 108 years.
Time.
There were more people at this thing than I think we had as a nation 108 years ago.
Exactly.
All right, Mike and Mike. So as we dive into the football, let's do it in the form of a 5-point stance brought to you by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit them at geico.com or call 1-800-947-GEICO. Top 5 stories from an NFL Sunday, and it starts with Dak Prescott, Mike, who wins his 7th straight start. Now, the Cowboys at 7-1, they played the winless Browns yesterday, and they took care of them exactly as you'd expect them to.
Right.
Zeke had a big day. Witten had a big day. But Dak Prescott continues, Mike, to get better and better.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's, the third rookie since the 70 merger, the merger in 70 to win at least 7 straight games. He joins Ben Roethlisberger and Kyle Orton. And sometimes there's a name thrown in there that's kind of, out of whack a little bit. But the talk, it sounds like it's on the tail end of it. Don't you think, of starting Romo again? I believe that's got to be not even a consideration anymore between what he's doing. And then you have Zeke Elliott's rush for 891 yards, third most by a player in first 8 career games. It's only behind Adrian Peterson and Eric Dickerson. Pretty impressive again. And I still think a lot of that, these guys are excellent players. But that O-line in front of them is getting the job done as well.
And they took Zeke out of that game late. I mean, it's a blowout in the second half, so they didn't have to. He could have easily gone for more. Ben Roethlisberger back, not better than ever. Returned from his meniscus injury. The Steelers punted the first 7 times they had the ball and really were never. Mike Wallace caught a 95-yard touchdown, and the game was basically over.
Game was over, and I actually had Wallace in my DraftKings, so I was pretty happy about that. But a lot of people saying, what is the matter with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Just last week I was saying New England's number 1. I'm like, and then there's that group of Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Oakland, which we'll get to, and Denver, which we'll get to. Who's next up in there in Pittsburgh. Though I guess the stat shows it as well. Ben Roethlisberger coming off of an injury. They fell to 2-6 in his career when he comes back from an injury. So the stat says that they don't do that well when he comes back from it. I got to believe they're going to pick it up with some.
Yeah, with him being hurt and now him coming back, I think the one team that you're worried about right now that could get better in a hurry would be the Steelers.
Nobody's, as we'll say, nobody's running away in that division right now.
Right, they're still tied. Right. Atop the division. How about the Detroit Lions? The Detroit Lions are 5-4. They have trailed in the fourth quarter of all 9 of their games this year.
It's unreal.
And I tell you what, Matthew Stafford has some moments that makes you shake your head. He threw one of the worst interceptions of the season yesterday, but he is as good in late game situations as any quarterback in the league.
I agree, and it's gotten better over the last few years with the turnovers. He still does. I'm with you. He has that one you shake your head every now and then. Golden Tate with a great catch on the sideline in overtime, and then horrible tackling by Minnesota, and that's where we'll get into Minnesota on the other side of this. But really, there's only one other team that's trailed in the fourth quarter of every game this year, and that's the Cleveland Browns, and they're 0-9.
Right.
They continued to trail when they're all zeros on the clock.
Yes, they've trailed going into the weekend. Ryan Fitzpatrick struggled once again in a Jets loss to the Dolphins, throwing his 5th red zone interception this season. And that pass, I don't even know. It was a jump ball to no one.
Well, I mean, again, there's a miscommunication. We've seen it before, so it's either quarterback or wide receiver. Somebody didn't get it. When something is that far off, there's obviously miscommunication.
But I turned after the game to watch Ray Lucas, who does a post game on the local channel in New York, talking about that, and he said it doesn't matter if there's miscommunication in that situation. The quarterback is the last line of defense. Yeah. You cannot. That was a ball, in his words, that had to be thrown into the 5th row of the stands, and instead. Now, look, they got a break on the dropped punt.
Yeah, they did.
It was a crazy game yesterday. We'll get to them in a couple of minutes. And then finally, Mike, and this is where we'll rest, the Raiders beat the Broncos on Sunday Night Football, and they did so in somewhat decisive fashion. The Raiders now alone in first place in the AFC West, the latest they have been in 5 years. The Raiders, Mike, are a really, really solid football team, and they're getting better week by week.
Well, they are, and what stepped up last night, quite honestly, was a Raider defense. That was the part about, okay, when are they going to come along? The offense is coming along. Can the defense come along? And 4 straight 3-and-outs, Denver started that game. That hasn't happened. The Raiders haven't gone 4 straight drives to start a game and to make the other team punt since 2012. They stopped Denver 4 straight first drives, or the 4 first drives of that game. And then on the other side, Oakland, Derek Carr at 108 yards passing in the first quarter alone. It was 6-0 after the first quarter, 20-10 at halftime. But here's another thing. The defense played well, and we'll talk about that O-line as well and the money they put into that and just how much that's paying off.
Well, look, I mean, they right now, if the whole world is trying to figure out who's the second best team, because clearly it feels like the Patriots are the best team.
Yes.
You know, Dallas on one side has to get consideration and maybe a few others. And I think the Raiders have to be another. If you look at the complete, now obviously their defense gives up a lot of points early in the season, but week by week they're getting better and better.
That's why I brought them up first. I mean, that Oakland offense, we've seen, they were 5th in rushing, and they did nothing to deter that in going for over 200 yards against that Denver rush defense, and they're keeping their quarterback clean. They and Washington, I believe it's Washington, and is it Dallas? Who are the 3 teams that have given up the least amount of sacks? I know Washington's one of them, and I know the Raiders the other. I may be wrong on Dallas, but they're not getting Carr hit. They have $38 million of cap money on that offensive line. That's the most in the league. They spent money on them, and it's paying off. I think they all average about 380 pounds up front. They're monsters and just lay on you. But, yeah, I mean, you look at what they're doing now. They're a game ahead of the Chiefs. The Chiefs already had a bye, and the Chiefs have beaten the Raiders in Oakland. So that's still that one's hanging on them right there. They'll get the Chiefs one more time in Kansas City. Oakland's 2-1 in their division, but that one loss is at home to Kansas City, who also just has 2 losses. But man, they are playing extremely well. And Denver, listen, if they're playing from behind, you know, they like to run the ball out in front and let the defense get after the quarterback. But guess what? If the other team's offense doesn't have to throw the ball and can hand it off, then they're in great shape. I can't believe it. About 7 minutes ago, Derek Carr threw a pass when I thought they were going to just pound the ball to what was almost an interception that could have been costly for them. But that's the problem for Denver. They can't play catch-up ball right now with that quarterback. They need to run the ball, and they need their defense to be able to pin their ears back and get after a passing quarterback.
And bear in mind, Denver playing without 2 of their corners last night, right, and they've lost the running back. Right. So injuries are a factor right now for them as well. But Derek Carr very much right now in the zone. Brought to you by AutoZone. When you get the right part or helpful advice you need, it helps you get in your zone. So stop into AutoZone the next time you or your car need a little something, and let them help you get in the zone with AutoZone. Let me give you the numbers on Derek Carr. This is the pace that he is currently on. Now, I told you last week, Derek Carr would be my vote for MVP of the league. I believe that when the season is over, Tom Brady will be the MVP of the league. But right now, I said it last week, and nothing has changed. I would vote for Derek Carr for MVP of the league. The current pace he is on would leave him at 12-4 would be his team's record. He's on pace to throw 30 touchdowns and 5 picks with about 4,500 passing yards. The entire list of players in NFL history to win 12 games in a season with 30 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, and over 4,000 passing yards is Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers twice, and Tom Brady 4 times.
Yeah.
Derek Carr's on pace to do it, and he's 25 years old.
He's incredible what he's doing. I think at this point it's a 3-person race. And we have a decent amount of time to go with Brady, I think, with Matt Ryan and with Derek Carr. Matt Ryan's putting up pinball numbers, and if their team goes on, goes and wins the division, we know how much voters love those pinball numbers. So, but Derek Carr's right there. And then you talk about youth, 25 years old, and the direction they're going with the receivers that they have. Crabtree, new life. Cooper, excellent receiver. The O-line I keep talking about, and if the defense comes along, I mean, you're starting to talk about 2 of the better teams in each conference, the Raiders and the Cowboys. Does that bring back a little distant history, for the league and those 2 teams? I'm not going to get ahead of myself and get too crazy just yet, but they're playing extremely well. We know the Cowboys are as well. The Patriots are lurking there as still, you're voting them the best team in the league right now, but it's a good thing to see, I think.
All right, Mike and Mike, so going back over some of those that we touched on, the Cowboys yesterday and Zeke Elliott and Dak Prescott, so they have the young guys getting it done, and they also had yesterday the old guy getting it done. Yeah. Jason Witten had 8 catches for 134 yards in his 155th consecutive start. That breaks a tie with Leroy Jordan for the longest streak in Cowboys history. Jason Witten, in case you're thinking he's been around forever, you're right. He has now started more consecutive games than any Dallas Cowboy in history. And for those of us who go back a ways with the league, and you think about all those players the Cowboys have had going back to the 60s and the 70s and the 90s, and now this group here trying to wake up the echoes, and they're doing it with these young kids and then a little veteran leadership, and it's Witten, Mike, who I think is providing a bunch of that.
I feel like Witten's been in the league for 30 years. It feels like he has been in for 30 years, and he's just solid, go-to guy, bails you out. You know, a lot of times not going to be that big wow play, but it's going to be good enough play, and then you get games like that. And it's basically what's the coverage giving you, and Dak Prescott is smart enough to know where to go to the ball when the coverage is giving you. Throw the ball to your tight end. It's exactly what he's doing.
Are the Steelers in trouble is one of the big questions as we recap some of the those games that we did in there. Again, Roethlisberger now 2-6. In his first game back from injury, and as you watch just how rusty he looked when he went out there yesterday, you find yourself wondering, was it really the right move to play him? You get it, right? Yep. You want to get your big guy back out there. He's Roethlisberger. He's a great player. He's big and tough, and he's going to but if he doesn't practice all week long and he's barely ready to play, they punt the first 7 times they get the ball and 10 of the first 12. And so Herman Edwards last night, as he was talking about this, sort of put the two thoughts together on those two teams, on rushing Roethlisberger back, getting him out there with basically having not played in weeks and not practicing at all, and the notion that you might put Romo in that situation if you ever rushed him back out onto the field. Here was Herman.
Ben went in the game without practicing for 2 weeks. Okay? Did you see how he looked today?
Yeah, we're going to get to it.
Well, if Tony Romo, whatever game, if they decide to play him, he might look a lot like Ben. He's been out for 2 months. Not 2 weeks, 2 months. He hadn't played football. So it's almost not fair to Tony Romo as this thing continues to go on, right?
You know, this is a team in Pittsburgh that needs to live by the offense, much like we talked about Minnesota needs to live by the defense. And right now, because the defense for Pittsburgh, Cam Hayward leads them in sacks with 3. They're 31st in the league in sacks. Their defense isn't playing that well, and they need the high octane of Ben, of Le'Veon Bell, and of Antonio Brown. And they didn't get that. And we've seen, I gave the stat, you gave the stat. When Ben comes back from injury, he's now 2-6. And does he come back a little early? And maybe we should start giving Baltimore a little bit of credit. They're second overall in defense in yards allowed per game. They have a really good defense. Maybe we should give them a little bit of love as well for what they are doing. Not a juggernaut offense by any stretch of the imagination, but a really, really good defense, as we keep talking about how defense is winning more and more in the league.
Well, they got off to a good start, a fast start this year. The Ravens did at 3-0. It felt like it all got away from them practically immediately, and now all of a sudden they wake up at the midway point of their season and they're tied for the division.
Exactly right.
And what both those teams have done, particularly the Steelers, if you agree with me that they're the better team, have done, is they've let Cincinnati hang around.
Yes.
Cincinnati has played their way out of it early this season, and the division has let them hang around.
Yep, they're sitting at 3-4-1, while Pittsburgh and Baltimore are both 4-4. That's not a pretty division at all, just like the NFC North. Not pretty at all. Some couple of ugly divisions there, but you're right. They've let Cincy hang around, and no one's going to run away there, so we'll see. I'm with you. I think Pittsburgh is the best team, but, tell Baltimore that. As they sit there and did what they did. Baltimore is 2-0 in the division right now, sitting at 4-4 with a nice win yesterday.
So that's where we stand in some of those divisions around the National Football League. Quickly on the Jets, I don't for the life of me understand why they will continue to play Ryan Fitzpatrick, as the coach said yesterday that they would. There are 2 reasons why you might bench a quarterback. I said this exactly a couple of weeks ago. It's only all the more true now. When they decided to bench Fitzpatrick, it was the right decision for 2 reasons. 1, I thought their season was over, and so it was time to play the kids.
Right.
And 2, he has played his way out of the lineup. He has played in such a way that he deserves to be benched. Well, both of those are even more true now. At 3-6, if you just look, Mike, and you just rattle off the list of teams in the conference that are ahead of them, forget the division. New England is 7-1, so they won't lose anywhere near 6 games this year.
It's ridiculous.
My point is the division is clearly over.
The division is over, and the wild card right now, you're dealing with 2 teams coming out of the AFC West with 2 and 3 losses, so that puts them 4 and 3 losses behind. They're right there.
Plus all those teams in the North.
Oh, absolutely.
Plus the Indianapolis wins yesterday. Yep. Plus everyone in their own division is ahead ahead of them.
Buffalo and Miami sitting at 4 and 4 each.
They have no chance.
Couldn't agree more.
Of making the playoffs.
Got to be done. Bryce Petty's got to play.
Why not?
I have no clue. Now, we've seen him say Fitz is going to be the quarterback, and then he wasn't, and Geno Smith went in. So
he went very definitive on it yesterday.
Okay.
I watched the press conference from him yesterday. He's going to have a tough time walking that one back.
I don't know why.
The only reason I can think is that after this week they have a bye. So they have their bye so that maybe you would just sort of give yourself 2 weeks to get the kid ready. If it was Geno Smith, maybe they'd give him the ball now because he's played.
Maybe you could see that because they're playing the Rams. And the one thing, while the Rams aren't a great football team, you know their best part of the team
They rush the quarterback.
They rush the quarterback. So maybe you don't want to do that to Bryce Petty right off the bat. So maybe I could see that then. That could absolutely be the reason. But it can't be any longer than that. If it doesn't happen then, game by Bryce Petty, that would be a very, very stunning move.
All right, we are Mike and Mike, and we're just getting started on a Monday. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Great guest list today. Tommy Waddle, his regular visit on Mondays. He'll be in studio next, and Louis Riddick will be here, and Donovan McNabb will be here, and David Pollack will be on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line as we go through what we expect from the college football rankings tomorrow night. All our guests on the way that way. If you miss anything, a reminder, you can listen to any and all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. And then here's what you're really waiting for. This week, we will give all of you who wake up with us early a chance to win our contest early. 6:45 today. Yep. So in 25 minutes, we're going to give you today's winning word. You're going to give you the ways to enter, and you could win a fabulous trip with us to go watch the College Football National Championship game. That's early today, 6:45 Eastern, so 25 minutes from now. Just getting started. Tommy Waddle coming up next. Right now, a word from 1-800-Flowers. Golic, football season's getting intense. Safe to say your loved ones are feeling the effects. They haven't seen your face in months, but you can't give up now. Your team needs you. So before you disappear into the man cave for another weekend of football insanity, remind your special someone they're still your MVP with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com.
I would still suggest just sending it because you love them and you care. But when you get yourself eventually in the doghouse, which you will, then order 36 stunning autumn roses, and you're going to get them for $36. It's 1-800-Flowers, 36 for $36 deal. 36 stunning autumn roses, just $36. And, of course, every rose bouquet is backed by their 100% smile guarantee. You want to order those 36 stunning autumn roses for $36? Here's all you have to do. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com on your desktop or your mobile device. Click on that radio icon and enter the code Mike. 1-800-Flowers.com. Click on the radio icon, enter the code Mike. The offer ends Friday. Back after this, Mike and Mike.
Takes the snap. They give it to Murray off the left side. This time he dives in. Marcus Allen style. Touchdown! Raiders! Murray with the hat trick. His third touchdown of the night.
95-7 the game, the call. Latavius Murray would score 3 times, and the Raiders would put a stamp on the first part of their season. They beat the Broncos 30-20 last night. They go into their bye at 7-2 and alone in front in the AFC West. We've got football tonight on ESPN. A big one, Bills and Seahawks. Buffalo in that jam-packed AFC wildcard race. Seahawks in that NFC West, which is very competitive. It's 8:30 tonight on ESPN and on Watch ESPN. And the new AP poll came out yesterday. The top 6 rankings did not change, including Alabama remaining at number 1. The college football playoff rankings will come out tomorrow night on ESPN. That will change.
That's absolutely going to change.
Because Texas A&M was 4 last week. They will not be this week. SportsCenter with Mike and Mike, brought to you by AutoZone.
We're giving you a chance to be on the road with us to the national championship game. Just be listening every weekend, listening in about 15 minutes by that for that reason, for your chance to win the Mike and Mike on the road to the college football playoff sweepstakes presented by AutoZone. Visit Mike'sRoadToTheCFP.com for all the official rules.
All right, I'll play this song one more time. As we welcome in our Chicago pal Tom Waddle, who joins us every Monday. We talk football with him, but a quick thought as he hosts afternoons on ESPN 1000 and has for years and has been a Chicago staple for years. And you were there in Cleveland, and you were telling us during the break that in Game 7 there were moments when it was the craziest place you've ever been in your life.
Look, it wasn't the cleanest played baseball game that I've ever seen. It was arguably the most dramatic sporting event I've ever been at. And when Davis hit that home run in the 8th to tie it up, I thought Progressive Field was coming down. I mean, it was crazy. Just the ups and downs and some of the strategic moves that worked or didn't work or left you scratching your head. But at the end of the day, the rain delay gave the Cubs an opportunity to kind of collect themselves. They had a team meeting, and they came out and started a rally, and they finished the job. This was the best team in baseball all season long, so for them to win the World Series isn't surprising to me. But a tip of the cap to the Cleveland Indians. To do what they did and get past the adversity that they faced. Look, again, I've been to several different sporting events. I'm not so sure that Game 7 of this year's World Series wasn't the most dramatic sporting event I've ever been in.
Great for both sets of fans as well. We had Jessica Mendoza on the day after as well, and she said when their compound was across the street, so they were running back and forth outside the stadium to inside, and said she happened to be outside when Davis hit that home run. And while everybody was going nuts inside, said cars were stopping on the road, people getting out of their car and running around. I mean, had to be an incredible moment. But the Cubs ended up winning. Greeny, you were here Friday. We had Kyle Schwarber on, and he said he basically just got up. And I don't mean getting up for the morning of the parade, just got up from basically after the World Series and going on as long as he did. He had just got up that morning to go into the parade.
Put what that kid did into perspective.
Oh, my God.
Missed the entire season. Do you realize he's played 69 regular season baseball games? He still has not played a half of a full season. And he is tied for the Cubs lead in the history of their organization in terms of postseason home runs. He's now 5th in the history of Major League Baseball in OPS in the postseason for guys who have had at least 45 at-bats. That's a list that includes Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. I mean, it's just remarkable. A lot of guys did a lot of great things, but what he was able to do to
come back. Of what he did. Yeah, he talked a lot about it with us, and he actually did say there was really no shot of him playing the field. When they went back to Chicago, I was asking how. He said no. He said that wasn't. Did
you guys see them on Saturday Night Live this weekend?
I did not.
I didn't see it.
3 of the Cubs were on it. It was David Ross, Anthony Rizzo, and Dexter Fowler. They were in 2 sketches. One of them they sang with Bill Murray, and in another one they played male strippers. So it was fun. So to the victors go the spoils, and those were the victors for the Chicago Cubs. Tommy Waddle is here. All right, to the football on the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, half the cost. As Tommy joined us here, I said to him, what's the number one story in football this weekend in your mind? And you immediately said the Raiders.
I did. I thought this was one of those inflection point games for them. At home, a place where they've lost 2 of their ball games. They have been magnificent on the road. But at home, could they handle the king of their division and, quite frankly, the king of the NFL as the Denver Broncos pulled into town? One of those games that I think when you're led by a rookie quarterback, or not rookie, a young quarterback, who has played so well, and they have so many young pieces to this puzzle, to get a win like this can propel you to even bigger and better things. I thought it was a one of those signature victories. I was questioning whether or not this Raiders defense could do enough to kind of propel them to the top of the AFC West. They have improved each and every week, but the story here is their young quarterback, their young weapons, and that offensive line that they pointed out quite often last night was just mauling the Denver Broncos and rushed for better than 200 yards. I just physically, mentally, and emotionally, they came away from that game feeling great about themselves.
You know, it's one of those situations of where are you in that game? Who's going to be able to do what they do? So when Oakland gets a lead and eventually Denver has to pass their way back into it, Trevor Siemian, he had a tough night. He definitely had a tough night, and that's not their offense.
Right.
And for the Raiders, their offense, they do have great weapons, but if they can just snap the ball, hand the ball off and have that line, maul people, that's what they want their bread and butter to be. And that's exactly the position they were in. Now, that doesn't mean Derek Carr can't pass them back into it. They do have that luxury as well. Tommy, I mentioned early on that the defense, to me, is the part of their game that picked up. Now, it wasn't a monster offense in Denver, but that's a part I think that's been getting better and better. You have to say the two best lines in all of football right now have to be the Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys.
No question.
And there are some lines that are getting big. We talked about the O-line kind of going backward a little bit, and that's been more when subs have come in. It's not as deep anymore. You get veteran players together, playing together, not going through injury and being able to play as a group. You can see the effects of that. And I'll mention again, $38 million is their cap number on the offensive line. That is the most in the NFL for offensive line. So that's putting your money where your running attack is.
Well, and I give both of those organizations a ton of credit. They identified that's how we want to build our team. We're going to build our team inside out. The Dallas Cowboys did it by the draft. For the most part, the Oakland Raiders have done more of this with free
Hudson
agency.
And Osemele, absolutely, and they re-sign and pen them. But the interior, as you mentioned, what they did, and Dallas will have to go through it. They'll have to pay Zach Martin, I believe, after this year or this year, and I think after this year they'll probably want to pay him and get it over with. It'll be this year or next year, so they'll have a lot of money in there. Think
about what these Raiders have done now. Again, they took care of the division champs and the defending Super Bowl champs in their own building, so they knocked the king of the mountain off the mountain. And on the road, think about what they've done. Their 5 road victories have all been against teams that live in the central or eastern time zone, and all 5 of those wins were 1 o'clock kicks, which I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. When the ball's in the air, your body says it's 10 a.m. And for them to do what they've done on the road has just been remarkable. So, to me, they're arguably the best story. Them and the Dallas Cowboys, and, of course, the Patriots without Tom Brady. Those are the 3 best stories in football.
Right, and so the Raiders playing extremely well. And, Mike, they've also done a really smart thing. They drafted a quarterback that, at this point, you're going to look back at that and say, how in the world did this guy fall into the second round? When you look at Blake Bortles going ahead of him, you look at Manziel going ahead of him, Bridgewater, obviously, with the injury. But he falls into the second round, and look what a good job they've done, to your point, of bringing him along. What do you need? Get him an offensive line. Go out and spend some money on an offensive line so we don't get the quarterback killed, which is what happened to his brother. Then go out and draft a great receiver with a very high pick the next year. You almost never see receivers go as high in the draft as Amari Cooper did, but everyone said he's a polished NFL-ready player, so go out and get him a player that can work, he can work with and grow with. So they've done a good job of bringing in a quarterback and developing him the right way. And all of a sudden, the Raiders, if you're trying to think of a team that could be a real threat to the Patriots this year, you and I both said the Steelers. Why not the Raiders? What can't they do?
Be the Raiders.
They can run it. They can fling it all over the place. I tell you what, Derek Carr is not afraid of getting into a shootout with anybody.
He's not.
You want him to throw for 500 yards, he'll do it.
He's not, but let's also remember that the Chiefs beat them in Oakland, so they have to overcome that one. That's their only division loss, and it was a home loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, who only have 2 losses as well, but already had their bye, so they're a game behind. So we'll see. We said that we both, I think, picked Kansas City to win that division.
You'll agree with this, I think,
Mike. Right now, they'd have both wild cards as well.
Yeah, you got to learn how. It sounds simple in the master of the obvious statement of the day, but you have to learn how to win. And when you are a team that's led by a young quarterback, and you're an organization that hasn't won consistently over the last several years, you got to learn how to win. This was like I said, this is one of those inflection points in the season where they kind of mentally, physically, and in the standings, they got over the hump a little bit, and it's certainly something that they can build on. But they have been quite impressive. Still a little bit concerned about their defense. They're giving up 400 yards and 25 points per game, but those numbers are starting to descend because they've been better over the last several weeks. So if they can get that defense cranked up, they are for sure a huge threat.
Raiders only have 4 players over the age of 30 on their roster. Meanwhile, the Broncos, Mike, can never underestimate the value or whatever the opposite of value is of losing players after you win a championship. Yeah. They lost a lot of guys in the middle of their defense.
They did.
The Broncos are allowing 110 yards rushing a game between the tackles this year. That's second worst in the league.
Yep, right up the gut. And they have a team in their division in the Raiders who love to do that. They have a big back and a big line, so that doesn't bode well.
Now, you lost Malik Jackson. You lost Danny Trevathan. Yep. Last night you were playing with an injured Brandon Marshall, and you were without 2 of your top cornerbacks if you're the Broncos. So you need to get healthy in Denver.
All right, winning word of the morning is is coming up next. Special early time this week for those of you who wake up with us early in the morning. We'll give you the word. We'll give you the ways to enter, and you could be coming with us on a fabulous trip to the college football championship game. You'll hear the word, and then you'll hear one coach who is hearing loud criticism from a lot of different quarters this morning. I'll be very curious to see if you guys think it's justified or not. That's next after this word from ZipRecruiter. All right, are you hiring? And if so, do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? To find the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top job sites. And Mike, now you can.
With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites and social networks like Facebook and Twitter with a single click to find candidates in any city or industry nationwide. You can find out why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 1 million businesses. And right now, listeners and viewers, you can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. One more time. Again, you can go try it for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. We're back after this on Mike and Mike.
People serving our country means everything to me. You know, those are the real heroes, the people that provide freedom for us, allow us to live free and do the things we do on a daily basis.
Start your day with Barbasol Shaving Cream, America's leader for a close, comfortable
We're Mike and Mike, and our Sports Center is brought to you by Uber. Get your side hustle on. Sign up to drive with Uber and earn extra cash whenever you want. It's totally flexible. You're your own boss, and you can cash out up to 5 times a day. No minimum amount is required. Sign up today at uber.com/drive now. That's uber.com/drive. Do it now. Okay, for those of you who wake up early with us, here's your chance. This week, every day, at this time, we are giving you the winning word of the morning. We're going to give you the ways to enter it. 2 different ways. You should enter both those ways, and you could be on your way with us for a fabulous trip to the college football national championship game in Tampa. 15 winners over the course of the contest, a winner every single day, and that's thanks to our friends at AutoZone. Now, I understand the thinking behind the selection of today's word. The staff knows that I want to see the Jets go to Bryce Petty as the quarterback.
Right.
And so the word of the morning is Petty, spelled Petty.
Right.
Do you think that's a difficult word to spell? Do you think some people will struggle with that?
There is a word being Petty that's spelled the exact same way. Like, I mean, people could just say it's the quarterback Greeny wants or how Greeny acts all the time.
Yeah.
You could interchangeable and they're spelled the same.
Here's the downside.
Yeah.
The other thing associated with Greeny, Manny Petty. Not spelled that way.
Good point.
Not spelled that way. So do not get confused. This is not short for pedicure, which is a soapy foot delight. But this is for the quarterback that I would like to see starting for the New York Jets as soon as this coming week, Bryce Petty. It is spelled Petty, and here are the 2 ways to enter the contest.
This is key because these are the only 2 ways, gang. You enter any other way, you put this word in, you're not going to be officially entered to come with us to Tampa Bay. Take the word Petty and text it to 777-000 or enter it online at mikesroadtothecfp.com. Text the word to 777-000 or enter online at mikesroadtothecfp.com. And you could use it any way you want. Petty as a quarterback or Greeny as incredibly petty.
Either way, spell it Petty.
Yes.
Again, thanks to our friends at AutoZone for putting this together for us, giving you a chance to be on the road with us to the national championship game. Get in the zone with AutoZone. All right, we'll get to some college football a little bit later. Back to the NFL right now, and a coach who is hearing a lot of criticism around the country yesterday on social, and I can feel it's clearly starting to build in his home market of Philadelphia. And Golic knows better than anybody just what that town can be like, especially when they start to turn on a coach. And a lot of people had a lot of questions about Doug Peterson and the way he coached yesterday, not just going for the fourth downs, but some of the play calls on those fourth downs in a game that winds up, when you look at where the game is late, and you realize all the points they left on the field, you come back and you look through the body of the game. A lot of questions, are they fair?
Yeah, 2 times, I mean, you're in field goal range and you go for it on 4th down. Listen, if that's going to be your MO, I have no problem with it. I really don't. we kept talking about, what Jack Del Rio loves to go for, or when guys go for 2-point conversions. We love it, and you love the consistency. Now, that doesn't mean you do it every single time, number one. And number two, Tommy, the play calls.
Yes.
Holy smokes. I mean, I know Wentz is a good athlete, and he ran some, in college days. But this is a different ball game up here to try and run that read-out option with him and get him going on to the outside, or even just a straight outside run.
I had bigger questions exactly with the calls than I did the decision to go for it on fourth down. I believe at the end of the day they were 2 for 6 in red zone efficiency, and they were just 1 of 4 on fourth down.
1 of 4 on fourth down, 3 of 15 on third down, so not like it was any better on third down.
I have to be honest, too. When this game was unfolding, I saw their kicker Sturgis take a shot early in the game. My thought was maybe he was hurt, and that was the reason why they were going for it on fourth and short. But in the first two occasions, deep inside Giants territory in the red zone, one was the play you just saw. It was like a quarterback keeper, and he was going sideways as opposed to going north and south.
Sideways is never good.
No, and then the second play call that was a little curious to me was they packed it in, and they gave the ball to Darren Sproles,
right.
And it was kind of a stretch play.
160 pounds.
And I'm thinking, if you're going to get the ball to Darren Sproles, and he's one of the most elusive guys in all of the NFL, get it to him in space. But they almost ran a stretch play, or it looked like a stretch play from a tight formation, and then asked him to go east and west instead of north and south. It was... Look, I'm with you. If you want to be consistently aggressive, then that's fine. That's your right. MO, and that's the way you do things. I was just a little bit surprised by the plays they were calling to try to convert those fourth downs. And I think, look, Carson Wentz is in one of those rookie valleys, and it happens to rookie quarterback. It hasn't happened yet to Dak Prescott, but his completion percentage is down. The play calling has been a little bit different. I thought the Eagles were attacking the Giants downfield more than they have had attacked prior opponents with the vertical passing game. They just look out of sync right now.
Listen, this is a game that had 6 plays of over 30 yards, 4 picks in this game. You had a block kick. You had a big punt return for the Eagles as well. I mean, there were some big plays in this and turnovers. Wentz was real shaky in the first half. He actually got it together a little better in the second half. To your point, though, Greeny, I'm kind of on both sides of it. If you want that as your MO, and it's a good point about the kicker. Was he nicked or was he not? Because you're in field goal position to get points. But if you want to be aggressive, you know what? I'm really not going to chastise for that. You know, if the time is right. But the play calling, I know you're trying to fool the other team a bit. My thought is if you're going for it, have a play where it's not about we have to win, we have to get this by fooling somebody. Right. We can get this because we can get this.
Listen, we have time to get more into this. You cannot compare Wentz and Prescott because Prescott has a much better team around him.
Better situation.
Without a doubt.
And if you look, all of a sudden the world is getting down on the Eagles because they've lost 4 out of 5. They're all one-score games. They've got the ball at the end yesterday with a chance to win. They lost last week in overtime. They lost by 1 point to the Lions. I do not think the sky is falling on the Eagles to the degree that people are suggesting. Louis Riddick will weigh in with his thoughts next. Hey, we're Mike and Mike back and better than ever.
And do you know why we're better than ever?
Because we're giving away a chance to join us at the National Championship game.
Not just a chance, Greeny, many chances, because for the first time ever, we're picking a winner every single day.
Thanks to our friends at AutoZone, you'll have a daily chance to join us in Tampa Bay. Just be tuned in every weekday for your chance to win the Mike and Mike on the Road to the College Football Playoff Sweepstakes presented by AutoZone.
Visit Mike's Road to the CFP.com for official rules.
I'm Andy Katz from ESPN, along with my co-host Seth Greenberg. On the latest edition of the ESPN College Basketball Podcast, we are going to discuss the notice of allegations at Louisville and Seth Greenberg on a tour around the country. Go to the ESPN app and click on the headphone icon to get our podcast.